Hello and welcome back to the DP World Tour Picks and Bets show on the Mayo Media Network. I'm joined as ever by, I'm going to call you my co-host at this point, Baroff, because I feel like I've probably done as many with you this year as I have Sky, our little globe trotter that, well, I say globe, he's kind of staying in the States, right?
Yep.
But he's on tour again. So, yeah, we're back in the booth. Italian Open this week, Baroff. I think, first of all, actually, before we go into the actual event this week, we probably need to say a word on Tommy Fleetwood.
Yeah.
It isn't the perfect show for it, but he is DP World Tour kind of pedigree.
Mm-hmm.
How did you see it? Like, obviously, you're a reasonable fan of Fleetwood, right? And I think...
Sure, yeah. It's hard, I mean, he got off to as bad of a start as you can. Like, he obviously birdied the second hole, but he made 3 early bogeys, just did not look comfortable. I thought that, that long up and down on the par 3, was it 6 or 7, whatever it was. I thought that was going to settle him down, and it did. He really, from hole 6 to 15, right, seemed settled. Seemed like he was playing really well, and seemed like it was going to happen. Keegan had kind of excused himself with the bogey. Russell Henley couldn't make a short putt. Felt like, even though Day was there, it just felt like he wasn't really in it necessarily, and it was really just 3 of them. And then Tommy Fleetwood did what he does. Bad chips, bad putts. The ball striking was fine. And then I don't know what happened on 18. Obviously, he changed clubs, went from a 9-iron down to a wedge, came up short. But even so, he's going to 2-putt that 98% of the time, 99% of the time. And not only to 3-putt, but to 3-putt and put your marker right behind Keegan Bradley and show him the line. Yeah. Really, really tough. Yeah.
I think there's a couple of bits to unpack. I thought that after the really poor start, it felt a little bit like JJ Spawn-esque, terrible start, and then all of a sudden settled down really nicely. Obviously not quite on the same magnitude as Spawn, but it was kind of, you thought he was going to win. And then, you think about the fact that Bradley had to make 2 monster putts to even put himself into the mix. Right. Yep. But I just think that, forget about everything that happened before 18. What happened between those 2 players on 18 just typifies the difference, right? Like, Bradley goes up there. You never thought he was going anywhere other than the flag. You knew he was going to give himself a chance. You could tell by the way that Henley was celebrating his chip in that he thought he was going to have a chance of a playoff because he just assumed Fleetwood was going to bogey, which is really tough. And I actually think it's the indecision between him and Finau both times now, this and the Canadian Open, that seems to be a bit problematic. And I know he's never going to dump him. I know, they're the best of friends, and I always make this argument of, probably the good that he gets out of him probably outweighs any sort of negative you can say about their kind of player-caddy relationship.
But and it's hard because they play well. Like you look at, I kind of compare this, obviously not as long, but you talk about really good friends. Like, I look at what happened with Max Homa recently. That was one of his best friends, his caddy, but they split up because he wasn't playing well.
Yeah,
Fleetwood had been playing well. Obviously, he hasn't had as many chances like this, especially where he led late on the Sunday. But yeah, that was very tough to see.
Yeah, and then there was all this kind of discourse about the fact that did the ball move and all this sort of stuff. And I was like, look, it was just a bad putt. Like, he did push it. There was probably a little bit of a bobble, but he was going to miss that putt. It wasn't a good one.
Absolutely.
So disappointed for him. I thought him standing up and doing the interview went down really well. And that's probably why he's as popular as he is. And that's why he'll come back again. Hopefully he just gets the win soon and we can stop. I thought we were going to get the Tommy Fleetwood win and the Rory McIlroy Grand Slam in the same year. And then we can roll into this week with Cam Young, but we probably weren't that lucky. So it's tough, but hopefully he puts it right quickly, because the more that goes on after an issue like that is the harder it gets, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not as worried about this hurting Fleetwood too much. I think he's got as much scar tissue as a person can possibly have. I don't think it's going to impact him much. Like we said, he's played great all year. It was very tough to watch for sure.
For sure. Let's go back to the DP World Tour then. That's why we're here. The Italian Open, Ryan, has changed course again this year.
Mm-hmm.
Not too familiar with it. It is the same designer, I believe, as Marco Simone. So it's not a complete random, but it isn't anywhere near the same type of golf course. It's a shorter, apparently linksy style golf course. And the difficulty with this is you're kind of going by how anyone else interprets it right at this point. Like, we don't really have any factual information. We don't know that links players play really well here. We don't, because we've got no evidence of it. So I suppose if you look at the Challenge Tour last year, you can see a few names up there. But generally speaking, we're going by gut feel. When that happens, Ryan, how do you approach that? Do you approach things differently? Do you just take the best guys? Do you try and find a fit, like with a links player? Like, what is your kind of approach to it?
So I think the Challenge Tour stuff is going to help a little bit just in terms of how it played. You know, I think Perry won it, 18 under par. In full disclosure, he was going to be on my card before I saw that. But it seems like that leaderboard was pretty much just best Challenge Tour players last year. All of them were kind of up there and played pretty well. So I don't think there's a ton you can take from that. But like you said, I also looked at pictures, right? It's definitely shorter, looks more linksy, looks more exposed. I think the other thing is here now we have a few weeks off, right? So there's always some unknown when these guys have had a few weeks off of who's going to come out playing well, who's been playing, maybe they've been playing locally. So, you know, an added crapshoot into an already crapshooty DP World Tour. So,
yeah, and I think that is the biggest factor, that time off, because, you know, we talked up there about, you know, Christopher Wright and him being the kind of best player at the moment, but he's had those few weeks of sitting now, and it's like, how does that affect him? Did he need the momentum? Is the break good for him because he can come back and win again? Like, there's those kind of things you have to answer. And look, we've got the usual suspects at the top of the board. I kind of got 22-1 Jordan Smith, 25-1 Marco Peng, 25-1 Ewan Ferguson, 30-1 Francesco Laporta is always up at the top of the odds board at the moment, which frightens me a little bit. And then we've got Jaden Schaefer at 30-1 as well. How do you assess that top of the board? Because Jordan Smith just lives up there regardless of what he does.
Yeah, well, so, I mean, we briefly spoke about this when we came on air, but, you know, I think the best player on the DP World Tour isn't in that list, right? It's Christopher Wrightan, who I know we're going to get to. So that was a little surprising. Yeah, I mean, obviously no issue with Jordan Smith being up there, being a favorite. Yeah. And, like, all these guys are playing really well. It's just, with Ferguson, at least, we've seen him get a line a couple of times. Obviously, haven't seen that with Schaefer, haven't seen that with Laporta. Probably two of my favorites this week, just all things being considered. I ended up going with one of them. I couldn't go with both of them at the price. So I went with Schaefer. Just feel like he's a little bit more consistent. Obviously, with Laporta, he has the home narrative, but that doesn't always help. He hasn't really had a lot of good showings in the Italian Open. So I just went with Schaefer. I just feel like he's been closer. He's more of a top 5 threat when Laporta feels like more of a top 10 or top 20 threat.
Yeah, I feel like with Laporta, I think you summed it up quite nicely. The floor is higher, right? In the sense of like we're not worried about him kind of missing cuts and things like that. But with Schaefer, I feel like you've got the upside. And I get it. Like, I completely understand why people are kind of backing Schaefer and yourself as well. I mean, he's been 5th and 3rd the last 2 starts. Before that, he was 24th at the Turkish Airlines Open, finished really well there as well. So everything kind of suggests that he's ready to go. I actually think the shorter nature of this golf course probably plays into him a little bit more as well. So I like the pick. Makes sense.
Yeah, very accurate. And again, based on nothing, but when I was looking at the course and the exposed nature and the link style, it did remind me of playing in South Africa. So, like, for whatever that's worth, and like you said, he is not a bomber. He is definitely more accuracy based. We saw him, play well in Kenya. He played well in Austria, played well at the KLM, and all of that is really iron play, tee to green game. So I don't think it's fluky at all with James Schaefer.
No, completely understand. We've mentioned him before a couple of times now. Christopher Wrightan, I've backed him at 28-1, and it was one of those, Ryan, that. So the first thing I do if it's a new golf course, and you've already mentioned this once with Laporta, like, I just want to see how they've played in the event, because generally speaking, the part of the world matters quite considerably. The courses can be fairly similar set up. The weather can be very similar. So I think just looking at Italian Open form in general is really important. Raitan's played in one Italian Open, he finished 5th. And he was in terrible form. Like, I think he'd missed like 4 of his last 5 cuts going into that. He'd finished 37th the week before and obviously showed something to then go on and finish 5th. But he's now in the best form of his career. And it's not even close. He's playing unbelievable golf. And we've got to weigh up this thing of like, is this the new Christopher Raitan? Is it, because he's had a couple of injury problems in his career already. Is he just coming good and kind of fulfilling the promise that he'd already shown? And he threatened to do this already at the Hainan Classic, right? He led after round 1, shot a terrible 75 on the second day, then shot 66, 67 over the weekend to finish 2nd. Goes on to use 33rd in the Turkish Airlines Open, wins Sadal with a final round of 62, finishes 2nd at the Austrian Open, and then finishes 13th at the KLM. Now, I guess the one negative, if there is one in that kind of form, is that he seems to be leaving it late. He seems to just be shooting ridiculous scores. He shot 60, 68 on the Sundays all the time. He's kind of been off the pace a little bit. But I think that's fine. Like, I don't really care how you win. I don't really care how you get into the mix, right? If you can sort of settle the nerves for the first couple of days, at least just don't play yourself out of it, right? And the way he's hitting the ball is really encouraging. And I like, a little bit like Parry, which we'll come on to. With Parry, it was kind of like a massive gap between wins. But with Raitan, you've had this kind of career that hasn't gone to plan. It's been injuries, it's been limited starts, etc. And then bang, 2024, he wins the Challenge Tour Grand Final, beats, Nirgal Peterson, I think maybe a Euro, I can't remember who it was now, Kuvra, maybe one of the two. And then goes and wins on the DP World Tour fairly quickly as well. And that kind of, I think, makes us reassess who this player is, because if 2 wins, quick succession, both levels, I think that's quite eye-catching.
Yeah. And he was not a prized amateur, but he was a solid amateur player. He grew up in that group of Norwegians. He is very good friends with Victor Hovland and Chris Ventura and Christian Johannesson. Like, all those guys played together. It did take him a while, but clearly he's now won at all levels. Amateur golf, he won. Challenge Tour, you mentioned, he won. Now he's won on the DP World Tour. But I think most importantly, he has the skill sets that we want. Like, he bombs it and he can putt. Like, I'm good with chasing that pretty much anywhere where you can have a half decent approach week and he's going to contend. So he obviously, like you said, he can shoot some really, really low rounds. He shot a 60, he shot a 62. I'm a big fan of his, and certainly looking forward to seeing him on the PGA Tour next year.
And look, I think like the argument again would be, he's negated his length a little bit with the shorter golf course, but I don't really feel like that. I feel like, the fact that he can take what he wants off the tee, position himself, as you said, just needs to get hold of his irons, which is true any week, right? So pretty encouraged by Raitan, and think he's worthy of being right over the top of the odds board.
Yeah, no,
your
for sure.
second pick, Ryan, is one that I've just left out, and it felt like with Raitan, it was like one or the other. I just felt like we're chasing one of the really good run of form going into the break.
Yes, Martin Kuvra. We already hit the Kuvra ticket about a month or so ago, so I feel like we're kind of free rolling there. But he just he continues to be one of the best iron players there, and I think again on a course where length and off the tee isn't the most important, I think he has shown a combination of side and consistency this year. Like, even if you take the win away, he was 8th in Austria, he had a 5th in China, a 5th in Qatar, a 4th in Bahrain. Like, he's been close. And then to get across the line in Turkey, I believe he's, let me just look it up. He is 6th in approach play on tour this year. So again, like, it's been not just a short spurt. Very big fan of his. I was hoping for a 50. I got a 40. I'll do it. Not the best number out there, but again, I just think he's one of the 5 most talented players in this field, and I will take that at 40-1.
Yeah, and look, I think it was a Euro and Nirgal Peterson that Raitan beat in that Challenge Tour Grand Final, not Kuvra. But Kuvra also finished 12th at his golf course last year, and again, that's just another bit of substance, right? And like you said, it seems to be, one, he's been ultra consistent anyway, but 2, like, if it's the right golf course, he plays well. It really is that important. And if we are judging this golf course correctly, then he fits the mold. Like, it's pretty simple. I think, we could be wrong about the golf course and then that changes everything. But if we made the right kind of pre-tournament assessments, then he fits the mold, which is nice.
For sure.
Joint pick here. So I'll kick things off. John Parry, we've mentioned him a couple of times now. There's no point in keep burying the lead. Another one, won 3 times last season and then wins right at the end of the year. It's the start of the new season, but it's right at the end in December. Just been pretty consistent other than that. Like there's been sort of ebbs and flows already, despite, winning earlier in the season. But Turkish Airlines Open, he was pretty good for the first 3 rounds and just couldn't quite hold on. He was 4th at the Sadao Open, where he was 2nd going into the final round. And then 55th last time out the KLM, not great, but, another made cut and building blocks. He just strikes me as someone that's just very aware that he's good enough to contend at this level of DP World Tour. Like, I think he knew that kind of back in the day when he was trying to compete against Hatton and Fleetwood and Rory and all those people more regularly, he wasn't quite good enough. Now it just feels like he's come back in. He's got because he has won on the DP World Tour way before this. He won in like 2009, right, or 2010.
Yeah, 2010. Yeah,
won on the Challenge Tour in 2009. So he'd kind of got all that monkey off his back early on in his career, and then had a really big gap. But good iron player, will enjoy the shorter golf course. Obviously, we know he likes this one because he's won here last year.
Yeah.
Don't know if we're going to quite get to the same score. Apparently, the conditions were pretty easy that week because I think there was a senior open. There was only one player that was kind of under par. So it could go kind of a couple of different ways. But, the way he played and dissected the golf course while he was in form last season, as he is now, gives me a lot of hope at kind of 50, 55 to 1.
Yes. I think that's just a bad price. I would have expected him to be in the 35 to 40 range maximum, probably, right? I was very surprised to see that. Yeah, like you said, I think he's one of these older veteran players who has benefited from the new PGA Tour DP World Alliance, where a lot of the good players just aren't here anymore. And he is one of the better players. He won at this course last year on the Challenge Tour. I think that's obviously important. But he won 3 times on the Challenge Tour last year. Like, he was the best player pretty much start to finish. So, and then he came out and won very, very quickly this year on the main tour after a runner-up finish, and then had a runner-up in Kenya, then a 4th at the Sudal Open. So again, these sort of shorter, exposed linksy golf courses seem to fit him really well. He's a very good iron player. He's not going to make any big numbers, and obviously will have plenty of good vibes at this golf course.
Yeah, like the Sadao shorter golf course, just finished 4th there. The week right-hand one. If it does turn in a little bit linksy, he's got the kind of form in that as well. So, 3rd in the Dunhill Links way back when. I think he's played one in the Scottish Open as well. Finished 5th there. Mauritius, Kits-Windy, where he won. So he's kind of done everything that we kind of want from him, John Parry. And I think the question is he just always priced like this because they just never think he can do it again? Like, he can't go again this season. They kind of almost write off really impressive golfers because they don't think they're going to do it twice.
It's a lot like, so again, like with a lot of the players playing stateside now, I feel like the group of winners is pretty consolidated. Like, you get your random winner, like we had the Ashang Wu win again in China, but like the same 10 to 15 guys, it's a lot like the Korn Ferry Tour, right? Where like you can just take all those guys and put them at 25 to 1 or 40 to 1 or 30 to 1. It's going to be the same 15 guys. And I feel like he is firmly in that group. Like, I don't think he's any different than a Chikara or a Kuvra or an Angel Ayora. Like, I think they're all very similar. So I was just shocked to see the price. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I think with the names you just mentioned, the 3 you just wrapped off there, like, you would argue that you hope all 3 of those reach a higher peak than John Parry. But at the moment, there's no real difference, right? We've got no evidence they're going to be better than them. We've got no evidence he's going to have a better career than him. As you, I really like the sort of Korn Ferry analogy. I mean, this is why you get these kind of battlefield promotions on the Challenge Tour and the Korn Ferry Tour, right? Is that there is just kind of 20, 25 guys that can win, and you've just got to land on the right one. And this is like a good week for Parry. So I like it. I like the thinking there. Another joint pick. So I'll let you kick this one off at 75 to 1, and then I'll follow up with anything you don't say.
Yeah, Oliver Lindell. I've bet him a couple of times this year, but I've really, I've had my eye on him recently because he has now shown a floor.
Yeah.
He again was one of the best players on the Challenge Tour last year. Did everything except for win. I mean, the end of the year, fifth, sixth, ninth, second, third, second, fourth in those 8 consecutive events. Just could not get across the line. Probably because John Perry was winning every week. He came out this year, kind of struggled to get his bearings on the main tour, but he's now made 4 cuts in a row, 12th in Turkey, 25th at Sudal, tied for 13th in Austria, but he's doing it with elite iron play. He just can't putt. So that is an issue, but he has consistently been one of the best iron players on tour this year. Not great off the tee, but he's fine. He's more accuracy-based than distance-based. And again, I just feel like he has the pedigree based on what he did on the Challenge Tour last year that I think a win is coming, even though it hasn't happened for him yet. He has won on the Nordic Golf League a couple of times, and just a big fan of his game in general. So got him. He's still at 75-1 over here stateside. So I do like that number quite a bit.
Yeah, and he's someone, right? Like I understand why they sort of hang a number on him because it's like, look, he hasn't won before. There is no evidence. It's not a case of like we just don't think he's going to do it twice. He literally hasn't done it. Hasn't done it at Challenge Tour. Yep. I was part of that group of people trying to chase that Challenge Tour win last season. But
of course,
like I do also look at it and go, look, he's 26 years old. He's 26 years old. He hasn't played really full seasons at any point until last year when he showed, really great run on the Challenge Tour. He's played well consistently with his iron play, as you said here. Yep. And to your point, not the modern golfer of like absolutely smashing it off the tee, but like I think he can do what he needs to do off the tee. It's not like he's kind of like hamstrung in any way. I think he's solid enough, right?
And he's just sort of the next in line of these Finnish golfers that are really good, that don't necessarily pan out, but they suck you back in. Like you look at Tapio Pulkkanen, you look at Kai Samuja, and obviously Valimaki's won. But I mean, Mikko Kohernen is a guy that we bet a lot. Kim Koivu, if you remember him, is a guy that we bet a lot, right? Like, I just feel like that style of player is the type of player who's going to rip off a random Italian Open at like 80-1. So, yes, I'm there this week.
And I think the numbers where it is as well, because like the final finishes don't really reflect quite how he's playing because,
exactly.
he was 12th at the Turkish Airlines Open, wasn't he? Where he kind of had 3 good rounds and one disappointing one, 25th in Sadal, but he was 4th going into the final round there, 13th again, Austrian Open, but he had to work his way to that. And then last time I backed him at the KLM Open and shot a Saturday 82 and just completely ruined his chances. But he bounced straight back with a 68. Like it feels like an anomaly rather than like a, as you said, really poor putter at the moment. And if you don't have everything else firing, that can get problematic. But
yeah, I just think he's just priced in the wrong tier this week. Again, very unlikely that he's going to win, but I feel like he should be in that sort of Andy Sullivan, Alex Fitzpatrick, Sean Crocker group, and he's 20 points longer than them for some reason. So
3rd round 62 here in the Italian Challenge last year.
Oh, beautiful. That's all we need.
Typical story that he fell away on the Sunday. But look, to your point, I think it is one of those that like he does feel next man up. It does feel like we've seen like Ross McGowan win an Italian Open. Like, I don't feel like I can't chase Oliver Lindell, especially the way he's hit his irons. It's absolutely incredible. So rather than having nothing to base it on, we've got a solid foundation with him, and away we go.
Yep.
Ryan Molinari. This feels like chase it until it happens territory with Molinari at the moment.
We're chasing, obviously. I mean, I didn't expect him to play well at Oakmont. It was a miracle that he got there. But look, he won his qualifier for the U.S. Open. Has been just really, really good all summer. I think he was battling an injury, if that's right, because he was out for a while, and then he played 2 Nordic Golf League events. But then came back. He was 9th in India, had a 6th in China, a couple more top 25s. It's probably going to be my last week with him if he doesn't contend again. I just felt like 80-1 for a guy who's been really consistent, obviously a home game. It should be a course that suits him really well. Open, links, accuracy-based. I'm not happy about it, but one more ride with Molinari here.
I don't think he's got any kind of scouting duties with the Ryder Cup this week either, is he? So we're probably safe. I think it's really good that he's rededicated himself. Like it was very easy. I think the first time he threw himself all in, get these pairings absolutely right, big statistical days, so helping other players out. And it's quite nice to see him actually just back himself and hitting the ball really well, which is good to see. Before we come on to kind of our final picks, I want to shout out to the audio listeners. So you can listen on Daily Fantasy Sports, Picks and Bets, The Mix. You can listen on Apple, Spotify, everywhere that you would listen to your podcast. We will be there as well. So if you're just an audio listener and you don't have to look at this face, then that's a win for you. Ryan, this feels like one of the weirdest bets I've made this season, but I also feel quite good about it. It's weird. Bernd Wiesberg is 110 to 1 in the US. He is putting absolutely terribly. Like we're gonna have to get that out of the gate straight away. But his iron play has been really kind of eye-catching last three, 9th, 1st, and 2nd approach last 3 starts. He's been 37th, 22nd, and 9th in tee screen that time as well. Former winner of this event, which I think is really encouraging. As I said, like if you don't know the course, then leaning on the kind of area form, location form is really what I like to do. And look, another one, a bit like Lindell, the final finishes haven't been there, but there's been some sort of consistency creeping into his game. He's made the last 5 cuts now, 43rd the China Open, 11th at the Hainan, the second week playing there, 25th at the Sadao, where he's inside the top 17 for the first 3 rounds, 51st in Austria, where he's pretty disappointing, but probably like a bit extra pressure being a sort of home event, and then 46th at the KLM Open. There's a lot to figure out. It's very simple. He's putting poorly and he's hitting his irons nicely, and that's about it. That is the story with Wiesberg at the moment. He has been up and down since he returned from Live, but he had that little purple patch, didn't he, early last year, where he looked like he could win again. He finished 2nd, I think, at the European Open. Yeah. Easy to forget this is an 8-time DP World Tour winner that played at Whistling Straits in the 2021 Ryder Cup. I'm not ready to completely give up on Bernd Wiesberg yet.
I certainly look there. I think he's kind of in that bucket with me with like Andrea Pavon, where like the iron play is good. They have a couple top 20, top 30 finishes, but the putting and the driving are so bad.
So bad.
That like, and I feel like he's going to have to get to 16 to 20 under par this week. And if you're missing fairways and you can't putt, I just don't really see a path to that. Like, I would rather stay on him and back him at like, I don't know, like the European Open where like 8 under, 9 under might win or something like that. I just don't see him making enough birdies this week. But yeah, like you said, he's been dialed with the irons. If we trust the data, of course.
Yeah, of course. I think that's a really crucial point. Now, it is the winning score.
Yeah.
I'm sort of hoping it doesn't quite get as deep as it did for the Challenge Tour. I also he does get to that score even when he's been poor in the putting in the past. So like it's almost like he leaves so many out there, but still managed to accumulate a score. I do agree that like when someone's striking the ball this well and the putting's poor, that you can just kind of revert to a harder golf course. I do get that.
Yeah,
it just feels like to me like I think he was 80 to 1 for the Austrian Open because obviously it was a home event. And he's climbed a couple of 20 points bigger and he's still hitting his irons well. I think it's just an opportunity to take him at a decent price and hope it pans out.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I certainly considered him. I have a few other long shots, so I haven't bet any of these guys yet, but I'm circling. We'll probably grab 1 or 2 of them. All of them between 100 and 150 to 1. So I think the first one, which we probably should bet, is Darius Von Driel. Obviously, saw him get across the line in Kenya, and of course, what I think is pretty similar to this, at least stylistically. Just lost the playoff at the Soudal to the aforementioned Christopher Reitan, and then backed it up with the 26th at the KLM Open. Just seems like a very solid player overall for this type of golf course. We've seen him go low. We've seen him win. We've seen him been close. The ball striking has been really good with him. Again, it's really usually about the putting. And he drives it so short that you can only play him on certain golf courses. So I'm certainly looking at him at 100 to 1. The next one is Dan Bradbury. This is for Sky because I know he is one of his favorites. Bradbury obviously won twice, once in South Africa and then the Open de France where he got really hot with the putter. He's added some distance this year, been really, really inconsistent. but randomly finished 7th in his last start at the KLM, where he was top 10 in ball striking. That's usually a good sign for him. He's played well at the Italian Open, has a 10th and a 32nd, obviously on a different golf course. Have some interest there. And then Joachim Lagergren just finished 2nd at the KLM, where he led the field in tee to green. Qualified for the U.S. Open, where I don't think he broke 80 either day, but he qualified, so playing well. I know Ben Coley was on him at the KLM. I feel like if this is an exposed link style golf course, it should fit him very, very well. He is still 150 to 1 over here. So any thoughts on those 3 and where I should go?
Yeah, I think I was sort of landing on Van Driel as the one of the 3. When you mentioned the Bradbury Italian Open form of the 32nd and the 10th, that kind of drew me in. So I was very originally, like when we talked, it was kind of Van Driel and Lagergren. I'm now thinking Van Driel and Bradbury. And I think, I know makes your job even harder, but the only concern is the last time you see Lagergren, he just shoots 280. That's it,
Sure, but it was Oakmont. I mean, I definitely wouldn't expect him to play well there, but it was just kind of interesting. And I know Sky likes those. One other one for Sky, since he's not here. I don't know. Do you have any more long shots that you want to talk before I get to the 1,000 to 1?
There was one actually. Talk about familiar players and people that can just win. Kiride Capivarma is 100 to 1. And he has played in 5 Italian Opens. He's missed 3 cuts, but the 2 times he made the cut, he's finished 2nd and 12th.
Yep.
Last few starts, 13th, 10th, and 11th. But he's had this huge break. We haven't seen him since the end of April. And that concerns me a little bit. It doesn't strike me as a player that can just turn up out of nowhere. And I mean, I assume he's practiced. He's probably playing other stuff that we don't know, but that's a long break.
We've seen, and he was playing really well earlier in the year. I mean, we've seen a few of these guys, very, very seasoned veterans. We saw it a year or 2 ago when Tom Lewis came back, right? Yeah. We've seen it with Colsaerts. Rafa Cabrera Bello has back-to-back top 25s out of nowhere. It seems like that's been all putter. Lucas Beauregard is showing some signs. So again, you never know with these guys, but he was playing really well earlier this year, and probably wait till we get back to Asia for him. But it certainly wouldn't surprise me. Yeah.
Yeah. So I looked at him. I looked. You mentioned Pavan, he was there. Paratore as a sort of home player. Didn't really feel strong.
We didn't even mention the king of Italy, Guido, who we bet before the U.S. Open when some ball striking was good. Seems like that was a bit of a fluke because the form has not maintained. And then he shot 83 at Oakmont the second day, I think. So probably just a fluke. But again, a prolific winner on golf courses like this in a home game. He was as long as 75 to 1 here this morning. I didn't bet it. I'm sure Sky will, but just an interesting name for sure.
I think the thing with Guido, right, is that he is not doing what he should be doing, which is taking advantage of all the top players leaving. He should be in that next level of we know he can win. We know he's super talented. We know he's been on the fringes of Ryder Cup consideration. Never really looked like he was going to make the team, but consideration, young winner, Kenya. If we think
one big events, big events.
He's got it, hasn't he? He's got some sort of it factor. Yeah, there's no flaw with him whatsoever.
No, absolutely. So I did not go there this week, but if Guido is sort of leading after 36 holes, that would not surprise me. The only other guy that I want to mention here, because I know Sky would want us to do it, is our local current leader on the Alps Tour Order of Merit, who just won last week, Jacopo Vecchia Fossa. I do not know a thing about him. This was information passed to me, but he does have a couple Challenge Tour finishes. He has one top 10 on the Challenge Tour a couple years ago in South Africa. He did play here last year, finished tied for 33rd in that Challenge Tour event, and he did actually make the cut at the Italian Open last year. He finished tied for 55th. Wasn't a very good weekend for him, but again, Open was 67, made the cut. He's 1,000 to 1, not a guy who I would back to win this event, but if you're looking for top 40, top 30, even potentially a top 20, Jacopo Vecchi Fossa.
Sounds like a dish, doesn't it? Vecchi Fossa.
Yes.
30 years old, only turned pro in 2016. Interesting.
Yeah, but just a top 5 machine on the Alps Tour, currently leading their order of merit, and finally got across the line last week. I think they were in France, and he got his first win. So that's the 1,000-to-1 home Italian for this week.
And you said he played in the Italian Open previously, right?
Tied for 55th last year. And that was with an opening 67. And then he finished tied for 33rd at this golf course in the Italian Challenge last year that Perry won. So he's seen the golf course, obviously should be comfortable here, and is in very, very good form.
There we go. Jacopo Vecchi Fossa. I'm not going to try too hard.
1,000-to-1. Yep. Have some fun with that one.
Absolutely. Any other thoughts on the event?
No, excited to have some coffee golf back. It's been a couple weeks now, and this is a fun time of year, right? We get this one. Obviously, we'll have an Irish Open, then we'll have the Scottish Open, the Open Championship. Just a very, very fun time of year for us as we cover this event, especially because the PGA events this time of year aren't great. You got the Rocket Mortgage, you got 3M, you got the John Deere. So I certainly will have most of my attention on the European golf probably for the next 4 to 5 weeks.
Well, it's actually probably the first time, I mean, this is completely anecdotal because I haven't really looked at it, but it feels like the first time in a while that we would have had like 3 or 4 weeks in a row on the DP World Tour this season. And we've got the Italian Open, the BMW International Open, the Scottish Open. We've got that ISCO Championship. That's also
the Barbasol and Barracuda, right? Those are
and then we've got the Open. So it's a great run for European golf. And if they can't capture the eyeballs in this run, it's a really tough scene, right? I mean, the Scottish Open will, because all the PGA Tour guys will play in it. I wonder if we'll get any BMW guys over.
And I was going to say, a Ryder Cup year, you're for sure going to get some guys, probably even next week. Like I assume guys like Jaeger and maybe Martin Keimer, if they allow him, will be playing next week at the BMW. But yeah, Ryder Cup year where these guys have to play. I think for sure you'll see. Yeah, Patrick and Sergio are playing next week. And so I think you'll start to see a lot of that this summer. So,
the German event looks pretty good. Patrick Reed, Sergio, as you said, we've got Rides, Hanjakar, all those kind of names. Haotong Lee's back.
Yeah, David Puig is playing there as well. So, it should be lots of good golf. I assume we'll have more for like obviously they'll all be here for the Scottish Open, but even for the Irish and things like that, you'll probably get more of those. Hopefully, more of the live guys back playing those events. Would love to see Rahm and Hatton playing some of these before the Open. So,
also the Bryan Bros are playing in Germany. Aren't they? I saw that the other day, which is
sounds like a YouTube activation.
They've done well to get in the field, and I mean they'll do some sort of content, and it'll be great. But I think that's it, Ryan. I think anything else is kind of we're in a little bit of unknown about the golf course, and I don't like to just pretend I know too much about the golf course. I want to see.
Yeah, no, for sure. Curious to see what Ben Coley writes up. I think he's posting early tomorrow morning for you guys, so that'll be overnight for me. I'm pretty set. Just want to pick a couple of those long shots, from the Vandrio, Bradbury, Lagergren group. So hopefully we get lucky because it's been a couple weeks without a winner now, and I'm itching.
Yeah, we're due, aren't we? That's the main thing.
Yeah.
Right, let's break down our cards. So I'll start. Christopher Reitan, 28-1. John Parry, 55-1. Oliver Lindell, 75-1. And Bernd Wiesberger at 110-1. Ryan, your picks this week?
Yep. So right now, Jaden Scaper at 30-1. Martin Kufra at 40-1. With you on Perry at 55. With you with Lindell at 75, and then Dodo Molinari at 80 with some long shots pending.
This is probably the latest I've ever seen you post a card on. Oh, you still haven't done it yet on Twitter. You normally
I haven't done it yet. No, I was shopping, and I'm having trouble cutting the Rocket card down as well. So trying to get it to 5 or 6 names.
Can't cut the Rocket name down like they've cut out the mortgage from the title, which is really strange. It's just the Rocket Classic now.
No, it's funny. It's the company branding. So the owner of Rocket Mortgage also owns my basketball team, the Cleveland Cavaliers, and they just changed their arena last year from Rocket Mortgage to now just Rocket Arena. So clearly there is just company-wide branding that they're changing there.
Like it. I mean, look,
Yeah.
anything that can spice that event up is always good.
Sure.
Ryan, thank you very much for joining me. Always good to chat golf with you in Sky's absence, and hopefully we do Sky proud on his trip, and we get a nice winner in the Italian Open.
All right, sounds good, Tom. Talk to you soon.